Ecocha exclusively represents specialty Taiwan tea with over 25 years of immersion in the local tea industry and tea culture. And today we're here tasting Spring 2020 Shan High Mountain Oolong tea. We just picked up our choice pick a few days ago, and we're tasting it here for the first time. I brewed it in a 150 milliliter tea judging cup. I put 9 grams of tea leaves in it and brewed it for 1-minute intervals 3 times. And the brewed leaves are looking very uniform in color. They're on the slightly immature side, and that's for a specific reason that the harvest was kind of rushed this year. This tea was picked about 2 weeks ago now, I believe, and it was picked about a week early because there was a big weather front moving in that gave us over a week straight of rain, basically. So the people at higher elevations wanted to hurry up and harvest their tea before it was too late after the rain stopped. So we have a slightly immature batch of Shan this year, which many people prefer. It's easier to process, and because it's easier to process, you get better results. We had a choice of 3 different days of harvest, and one of them was the very last day, and it was very lightly oxidized and just didn't have much body to it. The second batch was still lightly oxidized, but very nice and fresh and green. The third batch, which we chose, was slightly more oxidized. Marginally so, but noticeably so. And we went with our first intuition, the first sip of each. We just nailed it and said, that's the one. We brewed it similar to this method, actually in a bowl, which is the common way of sourcing tea, and let it brew strongly and then rebrewed it. And the one that was slightly more oxidized just held its own all the way through. It was good from the first sip to the last sip. The one that was a little bit less oxidized had a nice green character to it, a little more of the high notes, the fragrant high notes, but it didn't really, it just kind of like slowly peaked and then it came down and didn't have the substance of the batch that we chose in the end. In the aroma of these leaves, when excuse me, it's very full. Fruity is the prominent one, but also floral and foresty. It has that whole spectrum of that deep green foresty thing going on, and then sweetness of you know what? It smells like pears. No, maybe it's just a trick of the language. Shan translates as pear mountain. But right now, the aroma coming off this cooled down cup, it's still warm. It's very nice. I can see the residue in the bottom of the cup having that kind of deep sap character to it. So yeah, the brewed leaves are slightly smaller than usual, but you know, they're definitely well beyond half mature. I would say like it literally was. They just hurried the harvest up maybe 5 days or 7 days earlier than they would have if they had a choice in the weather. The dried leaves are very uniform in color and size. There's not a lot of stem going on. It seems like they were carefully picked, and there's not yellowing, which also indicates that there's no overly mature leaves, and there weren't leaves that were too big along with the ones that are still growing. So the benefit of picking tea that is slightly less than mature is that you have a more uniform stock or uniform crop that allows the tea maker to get a better uniformity in the oxidation level, the whole thing. You know, if you're processing big leaves together with small leaves, there's going to be some compromise on both ends. Very balanced, buttery smooth. It's a matter of taste, of course, in terms of which oxidation level you choose. The people that are conventional fans of the Shan or the highest elevation teas like their tea very lightly oxidized. And that's the way we've been conditioned, if I may say so. We at EcoChat believe that there is a more reliable and in the long run sustainable quality factor when you choose a tea that's slightly more oxidized. Number one, the shelf life is more stable. It won't, the fragrant quality won't disappear too quickly. And it's more balanced. It's a tea that you don't get tired of quickly. And it's actually better for your stomach. So we're in support of people who are willing to oxidize a very, a valuable raw produce and make it into a tea that's has a rounder profile, more balance, more body, and will keep its flavor profile longer. Second brew, way more substantial. Just more of the first brew is delicate and it's smooth and buttery, but now we're getting full on body, very thick mouthfeel. Very substantial. I got chills, goosebumps full on. It happens. It's still quite green. I mean, you can see the greenness in the brewed leaves too. It just has a balancedness, a balanced character to it that ends up being more satisfying. And there's plenty of nose, especially in the finish. I'm getting a lot of a heady, foresty quality in the nose now. But subtle and delicate enough to be floral as well. I'd say it's a very, very nice broad range of aromatic qualities. Almost the same as the second brew. So it's got stability here. These slightly smaller leaves are brewing up very nicely. It took, in this cup, they don't open up that easily. It's not the same as brewing in a gongfu teapot. So it's always that the first brew is more delicate. You get more of the subtle notes. I'm going to go back now. Very satisfying, rounded flavor profile. Yeah, when it's brewed more lightly, it tastes more buttery. There's a more buttery quality to it, buttery and floral with the first brew, and then it fills out to be, it's buttery and floral also, but sweeter and thicker. Our source is from Shan, and they are professional high mountain tea makers that also specialized in producing tea for competition, which means it does have a more significant level of oxidation. And they're going for it. They're doing what they think is right up at the highest elevation. They've been managing this farm for about 5 years now. And we're really happy to have someone from the Alishan region managing a farm and producing the Shan tea in the way that they make it at their home, so to speak. So there we have it, Spring 2020, the Shan High Mountain Oolong tea. If you like your high mountain teas, it's not overly oxidized. There's plenty enough freshness in there, but it has body and substance. And after the first brew of opening up, the second and third are quite substantial, very similar in character. So we think it's a stable brew overall. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and share it with anyone who might appreciate the information that we share with you. You can also sign up for our newsletter to keep updated on everything that we are doing here in Taiwan, including the new batches of tea that arrive, like this one. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you for the next batch of tea that we bring in.